unless we do something to prevent it, over the next 40 years, we're facing an epidemic of neurologic diseases on a global scale. A cheery thought. On this map, every country that's colored blue has more than 20% of its population over the age of 65. This is the world we live in. And this is the world your children will live in. For 12,000 years, the distribution of ages in the human population has looked like a pyramid with the oldest on top. It's already flattening out. By 2050, it's going to be a column and will start to invert. This is why it's happening. The average lifespan's more than doubled since 1840, and it's increasing currently at the rate of about 5 hours every day. And this is why that's not entirely a good thing. Because over the age of 65, your risk of getting Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease will increase exponentially. By 2050, there'll be about 32 million people in the United States over the age of 80, and unless we do something about it, half of them will have Alzheimer's disease and 3 million more will have Parkinson's disease. Right now, those and other neurologic diseases for which we have no cure or prevention cost about $1/3 trillion a year. It'll be well over $1 trillion by 2050. Alzheimer's disease starts when a protein that should be folded up properly misfolds into a kind of demented origami. So one approach we're taking is to try to design drugs that function like molecular Scotch tape to hold the protein into its proper shape. That would keep it from forming the tangles that seem to kill large sections of the brain when they do. Interestingly enough, other neurologic diseases which affect very different parts of the brain also show tangles of misfolded protein, which suggests that the approach might be a general one and might be used to cure many neurologic diseases, not just Alzheimer's.
So my dad's family fits these stats. My dad has 3 first cousins that transitioned from or died from Alzheimer's. His mom, my grandmother, died from it, and now he's just been diagnosed. Dad has dementia. Anyway, this guy's talking about it from a data-driven perspective that it's become so prolific, like in our culture, and I'm just seeing it around me. My dad's one of his first cousins that had it. His wife has it really bad, and I'm watching my cousin take care of her mom, which was my dad's first cousin's wife, and she's got it really bad. I've noticed that people who smoked, the symptoms are much worse. My dad was having symptoms before COVID of just short-term memory loss. That was it. He was like forgetting dates and not remembering certain dates and things like that. But that was it. And he was kind of stable like that for years. It was about a year ago that he had a more noticeable decline in his symptomology. We figured it was after my uncle, his brother, died, is what exacerbated it. Like he fell into a really bad depression, and I think his symptoms of cognitive decline increased. But he's very conversationally normal. Like you can hold conversations with him like mostly normal. He might repeat old stories from the past more frequently, but he'd been doing that for like ever. So but it wasn't until I had attempted to move to California and it didn't work out. I moved from Illinois to California, didn't work out, moved back. I'm back in Illinois, but before I got back to Illinois, I landed in Ohio where my dad lives, just to land so I can figure out how I can get back to Illinois. So when I was there, that's when I realized, when he was leaving stained, dirty underwear in the oven and smelly shoes in the oven and putting plastic containers in the toaster oven and all this kind of crazy shit. And the house was in squalor. The stove was leaking gas. There were electrical wires hanging out. Everything was dirty and filthy. The washer didn't work, so his clothes were disgusting. The toilet didn't work, so it smelled like piss. Like everything was just in a dilapidated, bad state. He wasn't bathing. He wasn't cutting his hair, which he normally would do. So he's looking disheveled like a homeless person. He was just totally losing it. And And all he was eating was ice cream all day. That's all he ate, ice cream. And those plastic cheap oatmeal cookies that taste like cardboard. He was a mess when I landed, and I was there for 4 months before I moved back to Illinois, and I had to get his place. I had to repaint, fix everything. I had repair people in there fixing shit, new stove, new washer and dryer, new toilet, fixing all the electrical system, like getting things working, functioning. Taking him to all his appointments, changing his diet, because all you're eating is ice cream all day. I was like, what the hell? I can say though that after 2 months, he started improving. They say that you can improve. I don't agree. I do think you can improve with different lifestyle changes. And a lot of doctors like Dale Bredesen, Dr. Berg, Dr. Eckberg, um, which I'll leave links in my description for them, they're proving that people are changing their symptoms.
We need to talk about something real. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're in a place where, I don't know, you're emotional and you're not up for some real talk, please don't watch and don't listen. But this is a talk about what caregivers for their elderly parents really go through. Some of them, anyway. The real deal about what can happen. I'm of the age where real people are taking care of their parents and struggling. The kids I'm talking about, many are in their late 50s, 60s, and even beyond, taking care of elderly parents. And no, when I talk about taking care of elderly parents, I'm not talking about bringing mom a warm blanket and a cup of tea. The brutal reality is you've got people out there that are trying to care for elderly parents. We're talking changing diapers multiple times a day, trying to get parents to take baths who are in the throes of dementia and serious cognitive decline. Many times when this happens, the elderly people become aggressive and angry, sometimes not even remembering who that son and daughter are. Changing.
This lady speaking fact. When I got to Ohio, where my dad lives, he wasn't bathing. And it was an argument to get him to bathe. Could not get him to bathe. And the thing was, as part of it, we couldn't tell whether it's depression, but he was starting to show real clear signs of dementia. And we took him to a geriatric neuropsychologist, and he was diagnosed with early onset because they gave him this whole test. And then we gave him the 3-hour neuropsych test. And so he's diagnosed with early onset. Um, but he wasn't bathing. And then my cousin's mom, who was my dad's first cousin's wife, she hadn't bathed in years. They have to wipe her down, and like they need a whole team of people to give her a shower, you know? And she wears diapers all the time now, and she just poops in garbage cans. If there's like a little garbage can, the small little garbage cans next to the toilet, or like she'll just think it's a toilet and she'll just go poop in it. And when she opens her mouth, the only thing that comes out is total gibberish. Like you can't even understand what she's saying. And she's talking to you like she's thinks she's saying something coherent, but it's complete and utter gibberish. And she's aggressive and violent and stuff. And oh my God. So this lady is talking total facts. I'm feel very fortunate that my dad isn't at this level yet. Another thing is that my cousin is also dealing with a kid that's still living at home. She's got her mom at home because she decided to keep her at home instead of put her in a facility because she didn't want all of her mother's assets going to her care. But she's also has a kid at home. So a lot of times people that are taking care of their elderly parents are also taking care of kids still at home. So and they're working. She's working. She's literally about to have, well, she did. She almost like had a total complete breakdown. So all these meds, her physical health was deteriorating. That's why they say, like with caretakers, sometimes the caretakers die before the people they're taking care of die because it's so stressful.
catheters, doing everything in their power to keep that parent from falling. And if they do, who the hell's going to help them get up? Even when I was in my early 20s working in a care facility, I frequently had to call for help and back up with some of the elderly patients. When you've got a body that can no longer support itself and doesn't have balance, it's pretty tough for even the strongest person to safely care for them and help them. No, it's not some kind of romantic situation of family members loving each other. I mean, I know people who literally their family relationships with their own personal nuclear family is hurting. You've got marriages that are being strained and stressed because people are trying to care for elderly parents for sometimes weeks, months, even a year more on end, changing diapers multiple times a day. People that can't feed themselves, can't bathe, can't get to the bathroom. They're on oxygen. They can't even stand up. Okay? Your son or daughter is not trained for this. They don't have the ability, many of them, to do this. It's putting mental and physical strain on them. Then the family, a lot of times the siblings are under massive stress, fighting about who's going to do all the caretaking. It's impacting their families, your grandkids, if you're the elderly parent. It's not some kind of a hallmark situation where you're caring for the elderly parents and bringing them a magazine and a cup of coffee and letting them pet the cat. No, it's changing diapers day in and day out, helping to the toilet, helping when things are impacted, trying to bathe people that don't want to be bathed and are aggressive. Who's realistically prepared for this and trained for this?
But one thing that I encountered, all this is real. Like my dad doesn't need help with the toilet and all that. He's still very physically in shape, cognitively mostly there. Um, just doing weird executive functioning. He was having weird sundowning symptoms where he'd get aggressive and pacing. But another thing that people face, I don't know if she talks about it in this video, but one thing I encountered and when I was researching, it's even worse for other people, is that the elderly person, they're because they're kind of their brain's not functioning or wiring correctly, they kind of forget, one part of their brain knows that you're their daughter, but another part of the brain doesn't know that you're their child. And so my dad was making inappropriate sexual comments towards me when I had moved there. And my dad's never been weird or creepy, like at all, ever. If anything, like opposite of creepy, so it was so distressing and disturbing to see that he was not registering that I was his daughter, and he was making, it was mostly just comments, just like making kind of comments, that were totally inappropriate towards a daughter, particularly from a father. And he was like, and I think part of it was because he had been divorced for like 10 years. And I had come in when I landed there, and I was doing the things that his ex-wife used to do: clean, straighten up, cooking, all these kind of things that his ex-wife would do. So he was, in some part of his brain, he was registering that. I don't know. I don't even know, but it's worse. For some people, it's even worse. I'm going to read some like Reddit feeds for what people are going through with this. So here I pulled up some Reddit feeds because I was like mortified when this was happening. I was telling my cousin, she's been dealing with her mom longer than me because her mom's had it a lot longer. And I was mortified because I was like horrified that my dad was being inappropriate because he's never been like that ever. That's another thing that's really difficult about dealing with an elderly parent with dementia, is that so many families live really far apart. So like my sister's in Washington, D.C. Was in Illinois, my dad's in Ohio. And I have a whole bunch of other family in California. Like, I mean, my family's all spread apart. And so that's another thing people are dealing with, struggling with dealing with elderly. The whole families are spread across the nation. you know? And so that was another thing. So I was trying to tell my sister that our dad, we're half siblings, we have different moms, but our dad was being weird and creepy, and she wasn't believing me. Her and her mom, my stepmom, were being really dismissive of it. I mean, they finally saw it for themselves, but they didn't believe me. So a lot of the stuff were these weird issues coming up with family dynamics. I was trying to tell them this is like, and they didn't believe me. They're like, "Oh, you're just overreacting. You're just being ridiculous." But it's, and I told my cousin about it, and she laughed because she was just like, "Oh yeah, that's normal." Like I was like, "What? This is normal?" But apparently it is. Hypersexuality with dementia. My father-in-law has become obsessed with sex, constantly watching porn. So it either can increase or decrease like the behavior. It's so weird. He's sexually harassing my mother-in-law, possible inappropriate sexual behavior is part of dementia. We are shocked by this behavior. We're not used to see our parents doing that. Oh my God. How do I deal with my grandpa's sexually aggressive behavior? I'm going to click on this one. My um my grandpa has early onset dementia and he's becoming very sexually aggressive and saying inappropriate things. I don't think he realizes that it's me that he's dealing with because he grabs my butt and breast on a daily basis. Oh my God. Can you imagine a family member doing this shit? When I tell him to stop because it's inappropriate, he will say, "I'm not hurting you." Like, in other words, he's saying, "Let it happen because I'm not hurting you." He also says inappropriate things and uses words that are considered racial slurs. All this kind of stuff like that happens. I'm here, like when I was reading all these Reddit forums. Oh my God, here's another crazy one, dude. My boyfriend's dad has frontal something dementia. I've been dating him for about a year and a half since we've started dating. His dad's dementia has essentially remained the same. When we first started dating, my boyfriend was living in his own house and moved back in with his parents to help his mom with the caretaking. His dad requires 24/7 supervision. I also have a 6-year-old daughter that I have joint custody of with her father. I'm starting to feel increasingly unsafe around his dad. One day he gave me a hug and humped me. His mom said, "Oh, he must be extra happy today," and laughed it off. Oh, it's like, it's totally distressing and disturbing when people just laugh this shit off. He didn't like it, but I didn't like it, but let it go. However, this past month we were on vacation with family, and twice he would be patting a 10-year-old girl cousin's back, then look at her butt and pat her butt. He didn't do it to any of the other kids, just a 10-year-old girl. He did it twice. Last summer, he smacked one of the kids in the head and was trying to stop him. I just do not feel safe anymore with him around children, and I don't feel it's appropriate anymore to have him out in public around others, especially children. I was like, "Sorry, this is happening. This is a huge reason that my dad can't live with us, even though he's asked repeatedly. He's been inappropriate with my 5-year-old daughter, following her and trying to kiss her when she's told him no." Yeah, there's so many stories like this. Oh my God. And there was a guy that they said my grandpa started like I'm in a support group with a man who was horrified to reveal that his father with dementia had started masturbating at the breakfast table. Dude, this crazy. And yeah, there's all this kind of like weird shit like that happening. There was another Reddit that I read that this lady's dad was trying to rape her and shit, you know. He and my dad was like really normal growing up and like not weird. Her dad was kind of, she said he was always very violent and abusive. And then, she was the only one available to take care of him. No one, everyone else bailed, and she was terrified of him. So it was really disturbing to encounter that. I didn't even know that was a thing until I was dealing with my parent with dementia. Apparently, the people probably have a myriad of crazy ass stories of what they're experiencing, but this lady, I agree with this lady that you need help dealing with this. You can't do it on your own. Like my dad's like a large man and he's been an athlete most of his life, so he's really strong. My sister and I are not able to take care of him, especially he started showing signs of being a little bit aggressive and like really getting easily angered more so than he ever did because he's always usually super chill. my cousin decided to try to take care of her mom and her house, but it's like totally disrupting her family. My uncle, my aunt, and my granddad tried to take care of my grandmother in their home, but they weren't able to do it, so she got confiscated. I didn't find this out till years later, but they thought they could take care of her the best, but they weren't doing it. And a person who was checking in was realizing they weren't turning her over enough because she was just kind of like vegetative. She got to the point where she was just kind of vegetative, like and just sleeping all the time. But you have to move them, turn them. She was getting bed sores, and that was three people taking care of my grandmother, and that they still weren't doing it correctly, and she got confiscated and put in a home. So I've already realized, my sister and I know that we don't have the capacity to be able to deal with our dad because he's really strong. Like he's still really in great physical condition. He's really strong. There's no way we would be able to get him. We couldn't even get him to bathe. Like another thing I realized is that it takes a village, really ideally. We don't really have the circumstances like that in this country necessarily, but it takes a village to to deal with the elderly. And even if you're dealing with someone who's normal, ideally you have the whole family supporting, which we don't have that. So usually all the burden falls on one person, which ends up ruining their life essentially. We researched and found a home for our dad, and he's on a waiting list now. I mean, he could have gotten in already, but he wasn't quite ready. We're trying to keep him in his home. He's stable in his home right now, having coming people come in and check on him, and he's still very stable right now. But we have that picked out because there's no way we can. He doesn't even listen to us. The point I'm trying to make is that it takes a village to raise a kid. It also takes a village to support the elderly, particularly if they have dementia, because that's medically burdensome situation. And if you're dealing with an aggressive adult, it's not like you're dealing with a little toddler. You're dealing with a really aggressive, and my dad's like super strong. He's been an athlete most of his life. Fortunately, we're trying to do a whole bunch of lifestyle changes, which I'm talking about in the next segment of this video. Things that we implemented that helped our dad, helped him improve his symptoms, slow down the progression, made him stable,